Welcome to the Redacted Apostate. My name is Nicole.
And I'm Carl.
And today we're going to be talking about Bryson Muir. And we don't have any jokes today.
Yep.
Like, we have zero jokes about this.
This is serious.
It's a serious cult matter. Bryson was raised in a cult called...
We need a little context to it. This is a 14-year-old kid who has gone missing when his parents, one of them who is a, was it a former or current Colts linebacker?
Former Colts.
Former Colts linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
So what it looks like is that they did a welfare check on the...
No, there's nothing like that.
Okay.
So it's the Straitway Truth Ministry is the cult that this Bryson was raised in.
Yep.
His father is a former football player. And this specific cult has a few former football players in it.
Oh, really?
At least 3, possibly 4, possibly more.
Okay.
So what happened, what we know so far is Bryson went to visit his grandmother, and at his grandmother's house, it looked like he had been physically assaulted. There was, and I won't show the picture. The picture's
it's
pretty brutal.
It's brutal.
It looks like he was beaten up. It doesn't look good. So and this is extrapolation because we don't know what happened. It's not in the police report.
Mm-hmm.
I think he came clean to what happened to him, to his grandmother.
Interesting.
And then the mother, Bryson's mother, and her name is Kristen Muir.
And Kristen is also a member of the cult.
She is.
Okay.
She is. She picked him up in a 2015 Chevrolet Suburban, and that car belonged to the cult.
Yes.
All property belongs to the cult. And she picked him up. The grandmother saw him, I guess, get into the car, as far as I know. And then the grandmother called the police.
Right.
So she called the police and said, my grandson has been physically assaulted. I need to do a report. And literally minutes from that phone call, the Garfield Heights Police Department in Ohio, I guess this is Ohio.
What is Indiana?
It's either Ohio or Indiana, or like they were in Indiana and they're moving to, they were going to Ohio, somewhere over there.
Ohio. So they were leaving a family member's house in Ohio with his mother, Christian Muir, and a white 2015 Chevrolet Suburban belonging to Servant Leaders Foundation in Kokomo.
Mm-hmm. So the Garfield Heights Police Department in Ohio, that's what I said, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pulled the car over, and Bryson was not in the car. Yep. Literally minutes after the phone call came.
Right.
The police have been looking for Daniel Muir, the father, who is the former Colts linebacker, and the wife, Kristen Muir. And they've gone missing also. So right now, he's a missing kid. They don't know where the parents are. And something happened between the grandmother's house and when the police pulled that Chevrolet Suburban over. So this whole story, when it came across the feed, it felt a whole lot like
the Daybells.
The Daybells.
Yep. Yeah. And there's the only difference is that we could only find like a couple links on this story. So it seems to be almost totally around people in Ohio, but like this needs to be made, like everybody needs to be talking about this and looking for this kid and doing something about this group.
Yeah, in 2020, Sports Illustrated did a whole expose, 3 really long articles about the Straitway Truth Ministry and the way that they're luring in ex-football players into this cult and the details. And we'll put a link in the description to those articles because they're really in depth. I mean, it's a 3-part series, and it's really long. So this religion, this Stairway Truth Ministry, it feels like a combination of Waco Branch Davidians
Mm-hmm.
and the Daybells because of this child gone missing. Another key point in this is they have about 13 affiliated ministries across the country. And in these affiliated ministries, they're literal compounds.
Yeah.
So they are 13 different compounds. So one of the theories I had too was that another cult member came across the mother,
Mm-hmm.
and they took the child to another compound, and then the parents went to another compound. So he could still be alive.
Right.
He could just be in hiding, like what they thought about the Daybell children, the Valo, JJ, and Hailey. They thought they were alive, but in hiding in another compound.
Yeah, because I guess one of the theories could be too is that they are hiding the child so that they don't get in trouble for
Child abuse.
child abuse.
Yeah.
That, and then once he heals up, they're going to be like, "Oh no, he's fine. See, look." And in the meantime, brainwashing or making sure he says what they want him to say.
Yeah, yeah. And this is a heavily brainwashed organization.
Mhm.
You can tell just watching their videos. But the most important thing is this child is in danger.
Yes.
No matter where
no
he is,
cult.
he's in danger. But this is a very scary cult. They, in most all of their videos online, they have assault weapons behind them. And they are anti-government and anti-laws. They feel the laws do not apply to them.
Right.
And so they can do whatever they want to. They also believe that women and children are properties. So they can literally do whatever they want to children and to women.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this child, Bryson, he is in danger. And the more information, the more we can get out and do a public outcry. Because if they took him over state lines, if they were going to Indiana, they were started in Ohio and they were going to Indiana, that means the FBI needs to get involved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed. Wow. So, okay, well, let's talk about the cult a little bit. Do we know how many members are in this cult? Or because membership in cults are always fascinating because we have 50,000, which means 5,000, which actually means 500.
I don't know. The videos that they produce on YouTube have like between 350,000 to 500,000 views.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a lot of views on YouTube. They are, again, the Straitway Truth Ministry. Now, one thing I learned about them was interesting is they are a Black Hebrew Israelism. And it's the belief that Black people are the true Hebrews of the Old Testament. They're God's chosen people. Black Hebrew Israelism is the most popular term to describe that ideology.
Mm-hmm.
Though many adherents and group leaders, they don't like that term because they have all ethnicities in there. So I don't think they like the term Black Hebrew Israelism.
Right.
But that's kind of what it feels like. They use a lot of Hebrew iconography.
Mm.
And he even had that shirt on that you were talking about. You put the cult and culture.
Yeah.
Like he had that shirt on. He had like cult and culture. So there's another major former NFL player called Kabir. He's got a Nigerian last name, so it's really hard. Kabaja Biamila,
Mm-hmm.
but they call him KGB, and he's a former Green Bay Packers NFL player, and he has a lot of videos on there, mainly railing against how awful women are and how awful his ex-wife is, and instead of taking any personal responsibility, he's putting everything on his ex-wife and what's happening to him, instead of saying he's got like 8 children at this point, or 10 children. He's got a lot of children.
Yeah. That's weird.
Yeah. Now, I was looking at KG. I'm just going to call him KGB, this retired Packers NFL player. And we don't know football, so we're not football people. So none of these people, none of this is familiar to me.
Yeah.
Except for that there's a missing child, and
Yes.
it felt very, very close to home.
Deja vu.
Yeah, very deja vu.
Yeah.
So one of the former NFL players, his name was Mathis. I think his last name is Mathis, and he became friends with this group. And how he got involved in the cult is he did a DNA test, and it led his DNA back to Africa. And then he found that the original name of the kingdom that his DNA comes from, another name for it was Judah. And that made him think of, oh, this is the kingdom of Judah, and I'm really the lost tribe of Israel, and I'm really an Israelite. And so they take the Old Testament quite literally. Even in one of the videos that I was watching, they use the term handmaid. So they believe in multiple wives. They believe that women and children are property. All the women have to wear long dresses and head covering and no makeup. And they all have to dress the same. They have those 13 affiliated compounds, and people literally give up all their material possessions to the cult leader and join the compound, and then they're stuck there because they've given everything up and they can't leave.
So pretty standard as far as cults go in the way that, indoctrination. And as soon as you give up everything, then there is it removes your power, removes your ability to leave and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, they're cut off. Another thing that the cult does too is they, in the ISIS way, they groom young girls and isolate them from their families. And then when the girl turns 18, they have her moved to the compound. So they legally are not participating in human trafficking of children because she's 18, and then she says, I want to join this group.
Right.
And there's been several instances of parents that have lost their daughters in this way. Because apparently one of the leaders of this group, he is very charismatic, and they sound good. They look good. One of the leaders, he is building a huge mansion, I think here in Georgia. And I was watching the video of him and his huge mansion he's building, and he's making it eco-friendly, off the grid.
Yeah.
For his compound. And that stuff is not cheap. That is like the most expensive to make your own self-sustaining building. And it's this huge mansion that he's building, and it's self-sustaining. And it's like, where did all that money come from? And it's because these people give over everything to him. And one account I was reading of one individual, him and his family, it was him and 2 kids, the 4 of them, they were living in a trailer, and the leader was giving him $100 a month to live off of after he had given everything to this man. So this man is making everyone live in a compound, cutting off from their family. And another thing, and they didn't explicitly say this, but I think it was implied that only the men are allowed mobile phones. So that means like the women and the girls have literally no way out.
Wow. Okay. So I'm also looking here too. I'm trying to kind of do some background. Apparently, the KGB guy you're talking about, there was this incident at a Christmas pageant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, that's from the Sports Illustrated article. And that's a wild story too. And again, he doesn't take any personal responsibility. Like all leaders, cult leaders, narcissistic cult leaders, they don't take responsibility for actions.
Yeah, exactly.
He had 2 men come in with guns, weapons into a Christmas pageant.
Yep.
and couldn't understand why he was the one in trouble.
Yeah. And everybody was asking them to leave and they refused to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's just like, oh no, this is the way that my mother lived or something like that. This is the religion of my mother. And
No.
Yeah. So it's, wait a minute, what? So my sons were at a pageant, a Christmas pageant that goes against my religious belief.
Yeah. So I don't think they celebrate Christmas. I think because they are Israelites. They don't.
Well, I mean, that tracks
and this
for me. Yeah.
And KGB guy, he was raised a Muslim.
Okay.
So he was raised a Muslim and then converted to this Hebrew Nation of Israel, or whatever they're called, the Straitway path, Straitway Truth Ministry. And so his ex-wife has the kids, and these kids were in this school, and they're in a Christmas pageant, and it goes against everything he believes in. And instead of handling it through the court system, he had 2 people come in, and because of that altercation, the school is shut down now because parents were like, we don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
We don't know what this cult guy is going to do.
So he won.
He won.
Yep.
And so now his kids go to a different school.
Yeah.
But he hasn't seen his kids in a couple of years because he had another altercation where he abducted his 5-year-old. And can you imagine being married? Like, okay, you marry a football player. You have this great life. You're giving back to the community. You're part of it. And then all of a sudden you have all these kids with, and then your partner just joins a cult.
Yeah.
And starts spouting off all this crazy stuff. And everything that happens, he blames her for not being submissive, for being a Jezebel. I mean, he calls her all kinds of names. And it's out there on the internet, and it's heartbreaking.
So I want to look this up because what he says is, yep. There you go. So, wow. Holy crap. Okay, so what he says is the day before the play, I told him I'm not going to do anything. This is from KGB. I'm not going to do anything to stop you physically. But if you choose to go ahead and go against my consent, I'm going to ask for just compensation according to Article 5 of the Bill of Rights. So all I did was give him a bill making him personally liable. And so what he said is that Providence Academy, that was the academy where the kids were going to school, was using his sons against his will to perform in a Christian pageant. Okay. Article 5, the Bill of Rights. I had to look this up. No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner.
Yep.
Nor in time of war, but in a manner be prescribed by law.
Yep. So those children, he owns those children.
Yeah, and they are soldiers.
And they're his property. Yeah. And what do you do with that? So with Bryson and his parents, the mother converted along with the father, this Daniel Muir and Kristen Muir. They both converted. And so Bryson was raised in the cult, essentially. He doesn't know any other life. He probably doesn't have any real education.
No.
They probably have their own private, if they're living on a compound, what does he do? I mean, one of the things from the Sports Illustrated article said that there was physical whoopings that would happen to the children.
Yeah.
And the children were beaten with rods because
it's in the Bible.
Because it's in the Bible. Spare the rods, spoil the children. And they were beaten to the point where they couldn't stand and they couldn't breathe anymore. And so all of that leads to just this really dangerous group of people. And if it is this Israelite Branch Davidian Waco, I mean, this could end really badly.
It also feels like sovereign citizen stuff to me.
And yeah, they preach that a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, they preach sovereign citizen. I mean, just the firearms everywhere. So, they probably have, allegedly, this is just speculation, illegal firearms, just like David Koresh did,
Yeah, I mean, either
that
way.
they've
Yeah.
stockpiled. But they are trafficking women.
Mm-hmm.
They are trafficking women. They're isolating, coercively controlling women, and they're moving them from compound to compound. And because women are property, according to them,
Right.
they can do that.
Yep.
And there's no way for these women, once they turn 18, to leave, because they have no money.
Yeah.
They can't contact their families, and they're stuck there.
Wow.
It's like
feels,
ISIS.
And it feels like this is very tip of the iceberg for this group.
Oh, yeah. And I think this whole situation with Bryson is kind of, because Sports Illustrated, they came out with a series of articles in 2020. But I had never heard of this group.
Yeah.
Well, so I take that back a little bit, because I'm a huge fan of the TV show Survivor. I love that show. That's like one of my top 5 shows. And in the season before last, there was a contestant on Survivor who made it pretty far. And she's a lawyer now. And she said, I was raised in a cult.
Mhm.
And when I was 14 or 13, somewhere around that age, I don't remember exactly her age, she was supposed to marry one of the leaders.
Yeah.
And so her mom woke up at that point and said, no, this is not going to happen. And they got all their stuff in a car and they fled.
Mhm.
And so she escaped the cult. And when she told the story, I was like, what cult was that? Because,
Usually no.
I usually know. And I couldn't figure it out. Like, I couldn't figure out. But this reminds me of that. And this is purely hypothetical because I don't know.
Right.
Like, this is the kind of group that would marry off a 14-year-old girl
Yeah.
because she's property.
We also need to kind of say that a lot of this is hypothetical.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know anything. Well, let me rephrase. We don't know enough. We know, it's not that we don't know anything, it's we don't know enough. But again, what the main focus of us getting this video out isn't a deep dive into this cult. It's raising awareness for the 14-year-old that's missing. Because that's really, at the end of the day, the cult needs to be dealt with in its own regard, but they need to get this kid back and safe.
Yeah.
To the grandparents or whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Like,
It's heartbreaking. And this is why I said to you too, like, can you imagine being neurodivergent
in this group?
Growing up in this group? Like, any neurodivergent child would be beaten beyond their senses. Constantly.
Yeah.
Because of how this, just based on the stuff that I'm reading about this cult and the way that they treat children and the way that they feel that children should behave, and like any kind of stuff that is out of the way that they specifically say to live would be beaten.
Or if they start acting good, then they're zombies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
like, you can't win for losing with groups. And that's how this cult leader is. Like, if you're in favor. So one of the things that I saw was that if you're in favor, you get more money and more food.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not in favor, you get less money and less food. So it's even harder for people. So they're constantly currying favor with the leader because they need to feed their kids. They need to provide for their kids in any way they can, and because they've lost literally everything to join these compounds. Yeah. So Bryson is missing. Right now it is June 27th. He's been missing since June 16th. And
he's been missing 11 days.
11 days.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So either the cult is hiding him in another compound.
Or he's already deceased.
Yeah. So where are the parents? Like, this group needs to be held accountable for this, and for the treatment of children, and for the exploitation and grooming of women. There's a lot going on here, and this is a really scary group. And this is called the Straitway Truth Ministry. They have tons of videos online. I would not suggest watching those videos because that just adds viewership to them. But I would definitely read the Sports Illustrated articles. Those go into depth and specifically outline what that KGB dude, what he did.
Right.
And the Muirs at that point were just in the cult. They hadn't done any crazy stuff like KGB. KGB seems to be kind of the leader and the one that's recruiting these other NFL players. But I can imagine if you are an NFL player and you stop playing ball, that's like an identity crisis right there. Like where do you go where your life is so regimented and controlled by an owner, a coach, and a coach that's telling you do this, do this, do this, do this.
Well, and people adoring everything that you do too.
Right.
Putting you on that pedestal of fame and
And now you're not playing ball where someone's telling you what to. And I know, like from my perspective, losing my job in April was like, okay, well, now what do I do? This is why we're here. But like, what do I do in this situation? Because now my life was so regimented.
Well, you didn't start a cult. That was the, step one.
Yeah, I didn't start a cult.
Yeah.
I didn't join a cult.
Yeah.
But I started an anti-cult. I'm not a cult hunter like some cool people we're looking into now. I want to be a cult hunter. Yeah, we can't. We always joke about stuff, but this is such a serious situation, and this group feels really scary to me because we keep seeing this shit over and over and over again.
Yep. And this is falling right in line with all of the other stuff that we've already
all
seen.
the shit that we always see, where children are property. You must not spare the rod. You have whatever right that the group gives, whatever right to get children back in line, and they can do whatever they want to with no ramifications, no recourse. Yeah. And now a child is missing, and where is the FBI? I'm sure, like, we don't know that.
Well, they have to prove, and that's always my issue is they can't, the FBI just doesn't step in just because things look a certain way. Like, they need proof. There has to be. But my understanding is that there might not be concrete proof. The FBI probably is looking at it, but hasn't found that information yet to push forward. Like, they have to prove that the kid went across state lines. They have to prove certain things that are occurring. And the ATF might be involved as well. And, the ATF have never screwed anything up before.
Yeah.
So that one's scary.
Like, once the ATF gets involved, then we're looking at Ruby Ridge kind of all over again.
Waco
and Ruby Ridge, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a really dangerous situation. And then you add the fame on top of it of famous football players that are involved in this. Like with the Daybells and David Koresh, those guys were just cult leaders.
They were local cult personalities.
Yeah, they were just cult leaders. But now we've got famous football players that have willingly joined this cult and put their own children in danger.
Yeah.
And there should be more media attention on this, and why there's not is really baffling to me, why it's just a local Ohio story. So I we'll see where this goes, but in my mind, this doesn't go well.
No. Any direction you go with it.
It might save some of the girls that are in this cult and are stuck there, because there's more light being shown on this Straitway Truth Ministry. And maybe finally this cult leader gets held accountable for stealing money from people and building this big fancy self-sustaining house that he's building. But I don't know where we go from here. So please create videos, create messaging about this. This story needs to
post on your social media about the links. Go look at the news, especially in Ohio. There's not a lot. I only found 2 or 3. So find those, publish those out, get people behind it, because I also have a feeling too that, you know, we put sports people up on as heroes. They're just people. So whatever they do, they need to be held accountable.
Right. And, you know, and maybe this comes directly from the cult leader and the cult leaders in the Straitway Truth Ministry, and not the parents. But why have the parents gone missing? Why are the parents not producing Bryson? Why are they, where are they? Are they holed up in a compound somewhere, in one of these compounds? And then if the FBI, and then if they don't have cell phones, how will the FBI be able to track them?
Right.
There's a lot of questions right now.
Yeah. And this is the Green Bay Gazette, and says, I had property, my sons, on that land. I'm trying to get my property. They, Salmi and Desmith, were there on my behalf for my property. If I told them to go get something out of my car, I have that right. And if someone comes and say, hey, get away from that car, what do? Listen to the guy and get away or to Kabir? What? Now you're in a pickle. It's a civil issue.
Kabir is his name.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, and those guys had guns, so if anybody stopped them, they felt that they would have rights. So it goes that, it's that mentality that makes this even scarier.
Right. Laws don't apply to us. We have our own laws. We have our own truth. We have our own we have our own way of doing things. We worship Yah, and so your rules don't apply to what we're doing. And now there's a boy missing as part of this, and his life is forever going to be messed up.
Yep.
As to anyone who is raised in this kind of horrible, abusive cult group. But good for the one that got out and joined Survivor and became a lawyer. I was like, that story made me really happy. And it was kind of shocking that I didn't know the cult that she would have come from, but I think it was something similar to this one.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
No. I think like we said, guys, pushes it out. Any video that you find, put it on your social media, because again, this isn't about views. This is about
Bryson.
getting the message about the kid, Bryson. Get Bryson found. That's the important thing here.
And get him out of this cult. Yep. Save him from this cult.
Yep. All right. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.